My first question is, what is the value of archaeological excavations in general, and specifically for Judaic studies, biblical studies?
Well, archaeology in general is it's a science in which we study the past, and it's not just the study of the past. I think all people are interested in bugs flying over me.
That's the present.
Yeah. All people are interested in their roots, and in all cultures, all people, they're always. It's important to understand who you come from, what's your connections to your past, who your grandparents were, etc. And archaeology lets us extend this generations behind, and it helps us sort of understand the basic roots of who we are, what we're doing, what we mean to do, where we came from, etc. What's nice about archaeology is that it not only we know about the past, but we know about the past in a tangible manner. That means that, חבר'ה, אנחנו עושים כאן איזשהו רעיון, אז רק תצטרכו כאן, אוקיי? כן. You get a tangible way of seeing the past. That means you can actually touch the objects from the past. I can see buildings people lived in thousands of years ago. I can hold a pottery vessel which someone used 3,000 years ago. So I think it's a very, very powerful tool to study the past. Now, needless to say, in the context of Jewish heritage and Jewish studies, it provides a way to not only speak about texts and speak about our heritage in an abstract manner, but to be out, whether in the field or seeing it on a webcam, the actual remains. And it turns something from being theoretical and dusty to real. Now, even though things are dusty here, they're dusty because they're just uncovered. They're not dusty because they're old and forgotten. Mm-hmm. And I think the power and the experiential processes that people go through when they're discovering things from the past. And if you can pick up a shirt and say, this shirt is from the time of Yeshayahu, and this shirt is from the time of David HaMelech, and this shirt is from the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, or something like that, or the Maccabees, this gives you an experience that you'll never forget. And I think that's the power, in connected between the archaeological remains and the Jewish heritage.
Mm-hmm. So what are the contributions of this site to our general understanding about the Philistines and the biblical story?
Well, first of all, it's a site which is identified as Gath, which is one of the 5 cities of the Philistine, known from the Bible, and we find here substantial remains of the Philistines and their culture. Mm-hmm. And more specifically, we can talk about various historical events that are mentioned in the biblical text, such as the conquest of Gath by Hazael, which was mentioned in 2 Kings 12:18, and we can find the remains of the destruction of the site at the time. Or we know of the importance of Gath to the Philistines, for example, in the stories relating to David and slightly after David, and we can find the remains of a very, very impressive city at the time. We hear about the story of David, who's escaping from Saul, running and meeting Achish, king of Gath.
Faking mad, right?
And he's faking mad, and we excavate the gate of Gath. So even if that's not necessarily the gate that happened, it's a gate at Gath, and it
was a gate where he would likely come in through, had he been escaping?
Through a gate at Gath. I don't know which gate at Gath, but there might have been more than one. But nevertheless, it gives us a nice idea of what a gate at that time would look like. So to a certain extent, it's as if taking the biblical story and putting flesh on the bones, because the biblical story is a very, very a brief description usually, which is covered in many, many meanings. And when you can actually put the physical remains and connect it to it, it makes it much more understandable and much more vivid.
So what can a teacher now do differently in their classroom based on what's been discovered here?
Well, I think first of all, the very fact that you can say, let's read this chapter in Sefer Shmuel, in the book of Samuel, and we'll read the story, and then I'm going to show you finds that relate to these people that we talk about, the Philistines. That what's more vivid than that? And for kids, if you show a picture of a house, it's a little boring. But if you show a picture of a sword or a big collection of pottery found in a destruction level, that fires their imagination.
So finally, a message to teachers and students about why they should come to a dig or this dig.
Well, because first of all, they'll have the experience of their lifetime, something they won't forget, and they'll tell their grandchildren about when they're young, when they're older. Second of all, it will provide you with a way of directly connecting between the text that you read, whether it's the Tanakh or whether it's the Mishnah or whatever you're dealing with, any ancient Jewish text, and the actual lives of the people that were involved in it. It's turning something not only to a text that we read and we feel in our time, but we can actually see the lives of the people who wrote the text in front of us, and it turns it into something which is I would say
relatable,
more tangible, and more alive. And I think one of the issues, this is particularly I think for educators, and I'm sure all educators face the problem today of attention span.
Yes.
And with a 3.5 attention span that most young kids have, if you don't provide things that catch their imagination, and they're not the regular thing that you see, and you can do it whether through a webcam. Excuse me. Louise, I'll get back to you in a second, okay? If you can, move them out of the regular classroom, the regular pedagogical tools that you have, and suddenly pull in an object, or through the web bring them into an excavation, or actually bring them to an excavation, it changes the whole way that they'll look at the text. It changes their attention. It moves them, takes them away from screens in many cases. And I think this is a tool that I think can turn. I would say what's special about it is you can stay within textual studies, but still do something different, and do something which is combining textual studies with a physical aspect, whether the actual work or the feeling that the text has also a physical representation. Because very often the texts are looked as these dusty pages from 2,000 years ago. What's its relevance to me today? So besides trying to explain the relevance from an ideological point of view, you can show that these texts represent people and things and objects, and we can turn this into a living context.
So come here and live the context.
I would say, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.